Well, first it bubbled, then it buckled, then it came down. And no, we're not just talking about the wallpaper.
One team took the win, skipped a hug, and then left us all asking what really went down on the Rock the Block finale.
Hi there, I'm Shari, and this is my BFF Rhonda.
And welcome to Designing Bitches. This podcast is for women
and brave men
who eat, sleep, and breathe interior design and recognize their addiction to HGTV.
Whether you're rearranging your living room for the 12th time or here to justify another home goods spree, you're in the right place.
Let's talk design, disasters, and all the beautiful chaos in between.
Besties, it's the Rock the Block Season 6 finale. And you know what that means. It's appraisal day. The teams are wrapping up their upstairs bedrooms, balconies, and doing one last sprint for curb appeal glory.
That's right. Facades, front yards, and the kind of drama that only HGTV can deliver. And who shows up to judge? None other than our favorite plaid-wearing twin, Jonathan Scott, with 3 mysterious appraisers in tow. No names, no nonsense, just numbers.
Yeah, I loved they brought in local appraisers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the house with the highest appraisal takes the crown, and the teams finally get to snoop through each other's houses. You know we have thoughts.
You know they had thoughts based on their facial expressions.
Mm-hmm. It was actually pretty collegial, though.
Yes, I agree. So yes, we do have thoughts, but before we get into design decisions, diva moments, and questionable color choices,
we need to give a big old bestie shout out to Becky of Becky's Designs and our girl Marie for the cutest personalized sippy cups ever. They've officially upgraded our recording hydration game.
Marie, these cups arrived just in time for me to ditch my plastic Starbucks cups and give microplastics the boot. I'd rather sip my latte with my new Designing Bitches metal sippy cup. Besties, you can take a peep at them on our Facebook page and be sure to check out Becky's Designs on Facebook too.
Nice.
Support small business. It's an easy first step to less microplastics in your body and more macro good vibes.
Yay to healthy. Now let's get into this finale, shall we?
Absolutely.
So let's start with Tristyn and Kamohai. We didn't cover the backyard episode, so I'm going to talk a little bit about it today. Their backyard was really nice. I think the jacuzzi was a great idea.
Yes.
It was kind of like a swing and a miss because I did agree with Jonathan that it kind of took up too much of the back porch area.
It did. But on the other hand, if it's cold out, do you really want to walk halfway across the yard to your jacuzzi?
That's a good point. They also bring in the puka lava to wrap the front porch columns, something you talked about, the puka rock from I think the very first episode we did. It's another nod to Hawaii, which I love. Now, this is the house that I would move into today.
Me too.
I will say, I don't know why, but pivot doors scare me.
I love that pivot door, and I want one. I thought it was just so gorgeous, so modern, and it just, again, to me, it's the reason I love that house the most. And like you, if I had to pick one, that's the one I would live in for sure.
Oh, that's really funny that we picked the same one. Yeah,
Yes,
I love
thing...
the look of the door. I just don't know why. There's something about it that scares me a little. I feel myself getting a little anxious when they walk through the pivot door in Alison and Michel's house. And it's the same thing when I see them come through in this entrance. And I'm like,
maybe there's something to process there.
I don't know.
A
Maybe
childhood
my mom
trauma.
beat me with a pivot door when I was young. Who knows?
Regardless, I thought the house was beautiful on the outside. I would love pulling up to that house. The sod, I did have a question because it's clearly winter up there. Everything's dead. But do they need irrigation in Utah? I know they do in southern Utah.
No, for sure.
And nobody put in any irrigation. So
that's interesting. Now,
always nice to leave that for the next owner. Here's something for you to take care of.
Yeah.
Bye.
I do agree when Tristyn said they executed moody, modern, and organic vibes perfectly for their front facade.
Yes.
I had nicknamed their house the Moody Organic Modern House. And organic modern is my vibe. So I just love their house. She described it perfectly, and I think they did a great job executing it. I felt like they did a better job of connecting the front exterior to the entire vibe of the house better than any other team.
Yes. I just adored the outside of their house, and I thought, oh, that's perfect. I wouldn't change a thing.
And I felt like it perfectly told the story before you ever walked in. And then they added the solar panels.
Yes, they have a connection that got it for them for $20,000, which
That's a
I would
deal.
love to have that connection as well, since the two companies that bid on our house told us it was about $50K for.
Okay. Well, anyway, in this episode, they also had to design the upstairs bedroom and a balcony. And it's the balcony that faces the front
Yes.
to kind of orient you to where that room was. For all of those people out there that are going, blah, 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 what about a bathroom if they make it into an adult guest room? Well, the bathroom is connected. You just didn't see it. I'm assuming they didn't design that area either.
Yeah.
Which would be kind of interesting if you walk through those homes today. Like you'll have this beautifully designed room and then you walk in and it's, builder grade.
Wallboard, yeah. I'm curious if you bought that house, would it be up to you to then finish those spaces? I don't know.
I'm assuming. But anyway, they turned it into an adult area and they pushed back a wall to make it bigger. And I like that this balanced out all of the kids' spaces. And that's part of what they described. That
Yes.
wallpaper, which also brought in their spirit of Hawaii. If you listeners are wondering, we're having problems with our dogs today. And mine,
Yes.
I can't even begin to tell you what a little pain she's being.
Mine's snoring away at my feet. So let's
So
hope
whatever
that
you hear in the
continues.
background, you know what? We're dog lovers and they kind of are all super spoiled. So
They roll
fingers
us,
crossed,
yes.
I can edit this stuff out. I got to edit the audio.
If not, forgive us.
But they point out that this balances out all the kids' spaces they did. And that wallpaper, which was also a reflection of Hawaii, was gorgeous. I'm not a lover of red, but I actually loved how that wallpaper looked and the moody vibes it gave
Yes.
with how they had used it behind the wall shelves. And that they had pillows that were the same pattern that you see in the downstairs areas. They really
Yes.
connected that well, I believed.
Yes, they called it a guest space for grown-ups, and I think they nailed that.
They did.
That
And-
and the balcony, right? The two spaces together just felt
yep.
lovely. And yeah, if there was a bathroom off of there,
There is, yeah.
perfect guest room.
Yeah, so when Kamohai says the room is designed to be completely self-sufficient for guests, this was a total hit. Like they hit on all cylinders with the design of this room. And I don't know about you, I have become such a fan of Renovation Aloha. And what you listeners don't know is that we did an episode on Renovation Aloha, but it's in our rainy day vault. But seeing Kamohai's dad come and bless the house reminded me of it. And I actually became a little teary-eyed, which
Yes,
is
so
not
beautiful.
normal for me on any HGTV episode. But
So
that was
beautiful.
so beautiful. Yeah.
I agree. I do think the pink and black wallpaper gave me the David and Tiffany vibes from their season. Remember
Oh.
they had that black peacock wallpaper as soon as you walked in the house, right?
I don't actually remember.
Oh, yeah. It was pretty memorable, and the internet went crazy about it being, just too much, right?
Uh-huh.
And I'm not sure. I have a feeling your rule about you get tired of it pretty quick.
Yeah.
I guess it's wallpaper and it can change.
It's in a guest room.
Mm-hmm.
So even for me, where I'm not a big fan of using any color,
Yeah.
I felt like even I could be fine with this because it's
Yes.
not in a room I would be in all the time.
Yeah. The other wallpaper they used with the Hawaiian lays was a little more subtle.
True.
And I even looked that up on the interwebs to try to find it. So that's how much I liked it.
Oh. Any other thoughts about Tristyn and Kamohai's moody modern palace?
No, I just wanted to add, I think the house blessing is priceless and cannot
It
be
is.
added to the appraisal, but I loved it.
Yeah, same. So Chelsea and Cole, Cowboy Contemporary, I'm going to tell you, a family is going to absolutely love that yard with all the grass. As you pointed out, if there is no irrigation, like that's going to be a challenge. I'll tell you, my mom, I don't know, 4 years ago, she and my stepdad bought a home in Cedar City, Utah. And she fell in love with the house because it had this big grassy front yard and backyard. It was all grass. And it did look beautiful. Cedar City is only 3 hours away from the
Yes.
location where these houses are. So I'm pretty sure they're going to be irrigating. I feel like those people are going to look at the house with all the grass and they're going to be like, I'm going to buy it anyway because they're going to fall in love with it like my mom did. Then
I would-
they're going to
I would.
spend a lot of money keeping it alive and beautiful.
Yes, I would as well.
Now, I will also say about Chelsea and Cole is that these two really did do their homework, and Chelsea brings it up a couple of times about the neighborhood and what buyers would be looking for. And they definitely created the perfect house for a Utah family.
I think so.
I think this is the house that's going to sell first. Mm-hmm. And that RV boat pad with the tiny home was a brilliant idea because, like she said, they drove around and everybody had them. They fenced the backyard. They're going to be living in Coyoteville, first of all.
I was thinking the same thing.
Not that fence is going to stop a coyote who wants to come over it, but if your neighbor's house is all open, they're going to all be visiting Tristyn and Kamohai's.
Yes, whatever's easier. They're going to be over at Jonathan and Jordan eating goats.
You are absolutely right.
That was my thought is, what about the coyotes? Yeah. She did do her research. I thought when she put that RV pad in, yes, I was in Utah this last weekend. Everyone in Utah has an RV. It is the state to get your money's worth out of your RV.
Yes.
Camping is everywhere. So she put in that RV pad. I will say I have new houses in my area going up. Every single one of them has an RV garage. It comes with the house now.
Wow.
I had even mentioned to my husband, like, well, what if you don't have an RV? You just have this giant warehouse attached to your house. And he started, it could be a shop, and you could put a second floor balcony in it, and you could make a cigar bar or a man cave. And so clearly they have done their research, and everybody wants to have an RV / pad or garage or someplace to put their RV. So
I think the other thing was they were really thoughtful in that their tiny home really fit the vibe of the house, unlike Alison and Michel's transportators.
Agree. Yes. Yeah. Yes. You wouldn't mind looking at that out in someone's front yard. Yes. Also, that entire house from top to bottom, you could see Chelsea kept her eye on this is a house for a family with kids, right? Using her own kids as the inspiration. Utah has, I looked it up, 3.5 children is the average for a family. It's higher than other states. It seemed low to me for Utah. And when she said we're going to make the ultimate sleepover room, cousins galore, everybody can hang out in this room. I just thought, brilliant.
This is it. Yeah.
To make bunk beds look so intentional.
That room is magazine cover
ready.
So well done.
Mm-hmm. I agree. The only thing that was strange is then the balcony is a place for adults to hang out. That was a strange add-on to me.
It didn't seem like it was a total fit, and maybe they just weren't sure what to do with it. I don't know. I loved when Jonathan pointed out how well that their house coordinated with the Kalama's house next door.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
But was a little simpler. And I agree that it did feel a lot simpler, like a lot of light-colored stucco. But that's going to be great to beat the heat. But they look like homes that belonged in the same neighborhood.
Yes, which could, you could end up with a really disastrous results there, right?
True. Okay. Anything else about Chelsea and Cole's Cowboy Contemporary?
No.
Well, let's talk about Jonathan and Jordan's modern farmhouse. I did love the backyard.
Yeah.
Everything they put back there, which I think there are a lot of people, I think, in that area that do have chickens.
Yes.
So it's probably not going to be a little goat house. It's going to be a chicken house. And that way it helps.
Chicken coop will be a hit.
It helps feed all the wild coyotes.
I was going to say they better put up a fence or it's going to be a coyote buffet.
They'll need more than a fence because coyotes and...
Super smart. Yes.
The way they set up the greenhouse, I was in love with that. That was just so nice.
So answer me this, because obviously the judges, the twins, they loved it too. And I think that's why they gave them that win, right? They said, I walked in that greenhouse. I was in love. What are you using that for? Are you hosting weddings in your backyard?
No, you take the table out and you use it as a real greenhouse in winter.
Okay.
I love
better.
Jonathan's trick that he shared of painting the screen black so it all but disappears.
Yes, I thought the same thing.
I just thought, when I have to cage around things to stop the bunnies from eating them, like I'll paint them black so that they just kind of don't look like an eyesore when I look in my backyard.
Yes, no, I appreciated that. I thought, oh, okay. Thanks.
And you did cover that they did win the backyard competition in episode 6, which we did not cover with an episode. Sorry, besties. But we took a break over Memorial Day and dropped a previously recorded episode we had been saving for a rainy day or a lazy weekend. I hope you enjoyed it.
I had a great weekend, so I appreciate the day off.
Yes. I also liked the arch door for Jonathan and Jordan, the front door that they did. I actually
Very
thought that
pretty.
was beautiful, but I was thinking in my head, did they put arches anywhere else in their house? Like they sort of arched the shower entries.
Yes, the cuckoo shower.
Yes.
Did you hear Jonathan say the cuckoo clock shower?
Yes.
I love that comment. I laughed out loud.
But I just thought, if you don't have arches really anywhere else in the house, is that door a design do or a design don't?
Yeah, I don't know if when you walk in it feels non-congruent with the rest of the house. You'd have to experience that. But same sort of thing. It's like, oh, put a goose on your faucet here or throw an arch door in. Like it just doesn't feel, as Christina said, intention. It has to be intentional, Jonathan.
And their upstairs space, which like the Kalamas, they chose to do as a guest room. Like find the modern farmhouse in that. Good luck. But they did a great job of making this a really great guest room.
Yes.
Also kind of all-inclusive like the Kalamas did.
Yes.
I know I'm jumping around here, but going back to their front facade, this was the plainest of all four.
It was.
The only texture that stood out was from the garage doors and the cedar planks on the ceiling of the front patio and the upstairs balcony. And the white stone blended in so well with the stucco.
It did.
That it really didn't stand out as another texture. It was a little too simple for me. If I were across the street from the Kalamas, I would constantly
me too.
have house exterior envy when I looked at the front of their house.
Yes, but at the same time, you and I know plenty of people that Kalama outside decoration is going to be too much.
Oh my God,
right?
it's too
much
dark,
black.
too dark.
Yeah, it's too much wood. So
right.
I have a feeling there's a lot of people who are going to prefer the more bland white exterior. And I think, I don't know this, but I think if you saw it, as opposed to seeing it on TV, saw it with your own eyes, I suspect you would see the texture difference between the rock and the stucco.
Probably. And the other thing that I can't remember who pointed it out, but definitely a lot less maintenance than having to treat the cedar planks that are on those other houses.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say as someone who had a property at a ski resort, the winters are pretty hard on those buildings, on the wood, right? I sort of feel that way about electronic curtain opening, that if you had it, you'd probably really get used to it. And I'm tempted to do it myself, quite honestly, Flinging those curtains open every day is hard work.
I feel like it would be a better alarm clock than even my dog is.
Wake up like a princess with the light coming through.
Exactly, and I rise from my bed.
That's right.
That's right.
Perfect. Perfectly coiffed. I am someone who has spent a lot of time traveling. I was going to say I was someone who spent a lot of time in hotel rooms. That sounds different.
Rhonda's other job team is...
I have traveled. I have 800,000 United miles. That's just United.
Yes, Rhonda.
Yes,
of course, that's what it's about.
I've traveled and stayed in hotels when I travel. And I know a good hotel, much like the New Kids on the Block.
What a better hook for the beginning of our show. Why did Rhonda spend so much time in hotel rooms?
So I didn't really get fancy hotel vibes from that room. I will tell you, the coffee bar, big difference. Having a little refrigerator, that would make a huge difference. Flowers and plants.
You know what? That actually makes me think there could have been a lot more fresh flowers when they staged those homes.
Yeah, I didn't see any flowers and plants in there. Blackout drapes, that's a big one for staying in a hotel room. The desk with the tech, right, where you have your chargers and you're being able to plug right in. A beverage bar stocked with... for me, Perrier.
Yes, yes.
And finally, the funnest thing or the nicest thing, that I remember from traveling, I was in Alexandria, Old Town Alexandria, Virginia. There's a hotel that gives you a companion fish when you check in.
What?
I know it sounds ridiculous, but they give you a companion fish.
Okay.
And you take it up to your room and you put it on your bedside table. And while you stay at their hotel, you have a little companion fish.
Is this going to be like the bird seed you sent me with my birthday present?
Why?
Where you do this nice thing because Meghan Markle does it.
Yes.
And when I get the box, all of those bags of birdseed have burst open.
Burst.
And I end up with birdseed all over my kitchen floor.
Yes.
I feel like with the fish, be like, oh my God, I just want to be lazy and lay in my guest bed and watch movies on. I'm just kidding.
It's not like you have to. I mean, the fish just sits there. It doesn't.
It's there for a week. Like I gotta feed the fish. What if I overfeed the? What if I kill the fish and I
that would definitely
give my
take
kids
the
PTSD.
vibe down. The vibe would definitely crash if you killed your companion fish. Listen, I'm just telling you, I loved having a companion fish. It made the trip. I didn't feel so lonely.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not a fish person. I don't have fish in my current house.
What kind of fish were they? Just goldfish?
They were goldfish, yeah.
Okay.
They didn't require.
Did you name your goldfish?
Yes.
Did you specifically go back to that hotel so you could get a fish?
Yes.
Wow.
It worked. The hook worked.
Wow. Are you going to give them a shout out? What was the name of the hotel?
It was the Kimpton.
The Kimpton Fish Inn?
No, it's just Kimpton, Old Town Alexandria, Kimpton.
Okay. Well, let's
It was a boutique hotel, and that was one of the unique things about it. I can't believe you're laughing at the companion fish.
Next time you come visit, I'm putting a fish in your
I would love to have a companion fish.
Okay, so next, Alison and Michel, last but not least, and they were a fine rustic.
Yes.
Once again, finding the rustic in this design was pretty fun.
No.
I will tell you about the backyard until they put in the transportainer.
Yeah.
I loved the cohesiveness of their yard.
Mm-hmm.
And I wished with all my might that they had had some type of budget to give it some type of cladding. And what a brilliant idea with the transportainer, because that's an area of the country where there's a lot of tourist traffic. I think there's 4 national parks within a few hours. If you've never been to Utah, it's beautiful.
It's a launching site for sure.
This would be a great ADU and a great little rental. Mm-hmm. It just looks a little flat, but I get they didn't have much money yet left. And the kind of hit they took for having the rock mulch. I'm the person who took out every stitch of grass in both my front and backyard. And I've done a combination of mulches and other things because I don't want to have to care for grass or the kind of irrigation system it needs. And I don't want to drain Lake Tahoe of all of its water. I want to preserve that to do other things there. So at any rate, I felt like they did it really well for doing rock mulch, and that Alison would get it because she has the home in Vegas, as you pointed out, and she's used to seeing a lot of rock mulch yards because that part of the country's in a water drought, people.
Yeah. Again, it's an acre. So it's a huge piece of land.
Yes.
The dust is going to be blowing across that. It did look a little bare. And again, they're not putting in trees because it's not the time of year to put in trees. So holding that against them did feel a little unfair.
You know what? They could plant evergreens.
They could. Maybe the ground is frozen already, Shari.
It did not look frozen, but okay.
They looked cold. There was a couple of scenes that looked pretty cold.
It was so funny when she talks about getting her hands dirty and she's going to fill the planters with the natural quote unquote grass, which does look pretty dead.
So bad.
It looks like the grass in the fall, so it looks like it's already dead.
That's put this fire material next to my house.
Right next to the cedar.
Tell your landscaper, get that up near the house. Yeah.
She's so funny when she talks about getting her hands dirty. And then she says, what I mean by that is get your landscaper to get his hands dirty.
Yes.
But then when Jonathan sees it, he's like, I don't know what happened with the dead grass here.
Yeah, Allison's grass in the planter box, dead grass.
Yes.
Huge mistake is what I wrote in my notes.
Yes.
But did you notice, Shari, there was a fake olive tree up on the porch?
Of course I noticed it. Uh-huh.
Why?
Yeah.
Why would you put this dead grass in there? Put some fake plants in there.
Like enough of the fake plants. My guess is they were down to their last $2 in their budget.
Oh, yes, definitely. They had $20K left. Come on.
Yeah.
And they did that.
Maybe that's what the fight between Michel and Alison was about, because he spent $1,500 on that wallpaper and then he took it down. And she's like, I needed the $1,500 to fill up these planters.
That's right. I had to use dead grass, Michelle.
Speaking of the whole internet talking about if there's some kind of conflict between them, I was thinking as I watched this episode that it made me wonder if their planning was actually filmed early on. Here's what we're going to do about the room, because they're clearly together. They have that same great vibe when she talks about early on in the, like, it's in the first or second episode, like, oh, we have the most experience, but we look the youngest.
Yes.
And they're kind of giggling together. It had that same vibey feel, like they were doing well. And I actually think that was filmed early on. But then when they actually go to do the work, whatever conflict has happened, because never again did you see them together.
You're right.
He takes care of the whole room with the gym. She does the outside, which he came up with a lot of the ideas for, but they are no longer together. They're doing it separately. It could simply be that one of them had commitments somewhere else. So they did have to film those segments that came later, and one of them was out of town and did theirs on a different schedule.
I would agree with you until the winner was announced.
Well... Let's not talk about that yet. So let's put a pin in that. Let's put a little pin in that.
Foreshadow.
And because you would have had Alison chiming in as Michel debates whether or not to use the wallpaper and how to install it. And I loved him just talking aloud about deciding to mismatch it. So you'd hear a designer's thinking on how you do it.
Yep.
And because I'm debating wallpapering my bathroom and it would be the walls and the ceiling and there's no way to perfectly match the pattern.
Yes.
In the end, he decides to take it down.
Nix it.
And when they're showing that shot, they're showing a piece of that wallpaper that has so many bubbles in it. And it made me feel better about how awful I am at installing wallpaper. And I just thought, mine doesn't look that bad.
It's a skill. It's a skill. No, the idea of the boutique gym worked out. I put winner on my on my notes.
If you're a single couple and you're wanting that for your house, a gym makes absolute perfect sense. I would probably move the gym down to where that
indoor
not very functional pickleball court is.
You know, they serve overhand sometimes. I don't know if that's
gonna work. Comes back at you. How'd you get that black eye, Shari?
Or you're wiping your ceiling with your racket every time you serve. Yeah, no.
I do think the Shishugibon front door was gorgeous. And I loved that it was a nod to her first season, where she did Shishugibon in the first season.
Did. Yes. I liked when Jonathan was walking through and he agreed the pickleball court was useless. He just said, I guess this is for kids. Walked away. This is pretty much what we thought too.
Anything else you want to say about Alison and Michel and their refined rustic?
I did enjoy watching Alison moving pavers with no gloves on. I kept thinking, that manicure is going to be ruined.
You know, I think in all of her shows, though, we do see Alison do real work.
Yeah, I agree. She's hands-on when she has to be.
Before we talk about the winners, let's talk about the budgets. Because I feel like we were a little misled. Dear HGTV, when you say that you're doing these huge houses on an acre for $250,000, we had a whole discussion in our first episode about how was that going to be possible. But as it turns out, it wasn't a $250,000 budget. I feel like we were misled a little bit.
I agree 1,000%. I had even written down several places. Alison and Michel had $20K left to do their boutique gym. And they put in that giant slider door. Now, I have recently had a cost estimate on putting in a gigantic slider door in my house, and it was $30,000. So please explain.
Something is amiss. And
Please
also,
explain.
they got the extra 50 grand.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't make them spend budget to do the upstairs bonus rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they had to spend extra budget for the exterior facades or the front yards. Although it made me wonder when I saw Kamohai's and Tristyn's where they didn't add very many plantings.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that was a time or a budget issue. I don't know. And then they also got competition money.
Mm-hmm,
and I just want to say, given the size of these houses, it actually makes perfect sense. I think these budgets came in closer to 400,000.
Yeah, I'm with you. 4 to 5. Yeah.
So when Jonathan is using his $1,050,000 is how much
yes,
he's put into
making
the
a
homes,
big deal. Oh, look how much money we made on these
compared to
houses.
the 1.4, which was the highest appraisal. I'm just thinking, no. That $1,050,000 is more than what he's actually describing.
And that's consistent with the other houses, the other shows.
True. Yes. Yeah, that's true.
So, and it makes sense, right? It makes sense. You don't get 100% return on this stuff. So
the winning house was appraised at $1.4 million, and there was only $35K between the first and second, according to Ty. You want to announce the winner?
Alison and Michel.
Woohoo! This made Michelle the only 2-time winner of Rock the Block.
So I'm confused. Maybe one of our besties is an appraiser. We could interview you on our show, because Alison and Michel got rid of a bedroom to that gym.
Yes.
They did add that container in the back. Does that count?
Here's what I will say. When you use a bedroom for another purpose, as long as it meets what would be the standard.
Okay.
So
that would still
even
count as
though
a
they
bedroom.
staged it as a gym, it still counts as a bedroom. This is from my appraiser friends.
Got it.
Oh. I will say there's lots of feedback online about the winner. But I kind of poo-poo that, because you expect everyone has their favorites. Yeah. And the one that speaks to them. And so nobody's really going to be happy about the winner unless it's their team. I think. What do you think? Do you think it was the right decision?
It really did almost feel like the fix was in.
Well, you said in our predictions episode.
Yes, I thought
predicted
it would be them.
Chelsea and Cole would win. And you predicted Alison would win, but it wasn't like a proactive prediction. It was more like, I think after this is her third season, the HGTV is just going to give it to her.
So the reality skeptic in me, was it a coincidence the teams were all tied up going into the finale? Was that a coincidence?
I feel
what did that
because
score mean?
In past seasons, we've seen Mika and Brian never win. And we've seen, who's the good bones? Mina?
Yeah.
Mina and Karen didn't win. I'm a believer. I believe everything the TV tells me.
Yes.
And I believe that that's really how it fell out.
I'm the skeptic, and I'm like, oh, of course, they're all tied up. But I will say, looking at their sweet little faces, watching these ridiculous drones countdown.
Yes, they didn't know.
They didn't know. They all looked hopeful.
Allison cried. I believe Allison didn't know.
Genuinely did not know. I don't think they knew at the end, just based on their faces.
Yes. Now, Chelsea
I was looking very closely.
Does comment earlier on that Alison and Michel's home is going to need a specific buyer. And I do completely agree with that. Yeah. But again, that's not what determines who wins. It's just based on appraisal value. And then in addition to the bragging rights, the street is named after them.
Yeah, which not really. I looked that up too.
Oh, yeah, it does change back. That is true. I've actually seen that.
And I wouldn't mind living on Alice and Michel Boulevard. I think that's a nice name.
The other thing, and you talked about a little bit earlier, is the chat about what happens when the win is announced, with what happens with the two winners.
Yeah, there was no look at each other, embrace. Oh my God, we did it.
They hugged everybody but each other.
Every single person was hugged. And again, there was no jumping up and down. And oh my God, like I said, there was none of that team team figure, that you would normally see in such an event like this. So there's some tea out there. I want somebody to spill it, please, and let us know what happened. And it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time.
Going back to our predictions episode, you picked Alison to win.
Yes.
I picked Chelsea and Cole, and I stand behind my logic and my winner. I really felt like Chelsea and Cole designed for the potential buyer, and it shows. And that's why I think they would be a great second place. The internet says Chelsea and Cole were the second place in terms of the appraisals, but I haven't seen that anywhere official. So I don't know if that's accurate or not. They did put
that extra bath counts.
But I'm going to go with it because that means we picked the number 1 and number 2 winners in our predictions. And again, for listeners, we did those 7 weeks ago. So it's not like we could have made it up. We put it out there and published that episode. So let's talk about next season. I would ask, do you think there's a next season? I feel sure that there is.
Yes, it's too popular.
Who do you think? Who would you want to see for next season's Rock the Block?
I was actually thinking about that because, again, I didn't like the energy of this year's season.
It was challenging.
It was, kind of boring almost. I'm looking for a little more energy with the teams and a little more
playfulness between the teams. That was really missing. So I would want to see the butlers from Fix My Frankenhouse.
Yes.
I feel like the name of their show does not depict just how good the show is.
Got it.
It really is like well done. They're fun to watch. I love her design aesthetic and how they fix problems. I would give anything to see Nate and Jeremiah come back.
Oh, me too. So Chip and Joanna, they're at the pinnacle, top of their game, right? Clearly they have their own network right now. They're like Oprah, right? They wouldn't come back to HGTV, I don't think. But anyway, Hillary from Love It or List It would be fun, I'm sure. So if I had to pick my dream Rock the Block competition couples, I would throw in Aaron and Ben. I think it would be really interesting.
Oh, it would be interesting
to see their dynamic with some of these other more sophisticated, and I don't mean that meanly, I just mean that in a style sense.
Yeah.
How they would go. And I always vote for the Baumlers, Brian and Sarah.
Yes. Haven't they been on 2 seasons? One they lost and one they won? Okay.
I would watch them every time, though, because I just love their design.
I do love her design aesthetic. And I love their banter.
Yes. Honest banter for sure. And I would love to see Michel back, but I'd love to see him paired with Anthony.
I'd love to see him come back together with Anthony.
Yeah, they were much more fun than him and Alison together. So anyway, those are my choices.
Oh, that's made me think of another team. The Baumlers, well, at least Brian, is good friends with Scott, who does Vacation House Rule.
Okay.
And his wife's the designer.
Oh.
Her name is Deborah. And I would love to see a Rock the Block that has both Brian and Scott on it. That would be fun great. Because they are real life good friends and they just did a competition show together. But it's Canada's HGTV and I don't know if we'll ever get to see it.
Okay.
Well, besties, that's a wrap on season 6 of Rock the Block. We laughed, we nitpicked, we may have yelled "why" at our screens a few times, but we made it.
Alison and Michel took the win with their refined rustic vibes and a whole lot of rock mulch. Tristyn Kamohai delivered moody modern magic that Shari and I both want to move into.
For sure.
Jonathan and Jordan, they brought the most greenhouse glam. We're not sure about the modern farmhouse, but they tried. And then Chelsea and Cole, major snaps. Their Cowboy Contemporary may just be the most livable of all of them for our Utah friends.
I totally agree. But I'm still not over the wallpaper bubbles, which made me feel better about my wallpaper hanging shortcomings or that transportainer moment. And can we talk about Alison and Michel not even hugging each other when they won? They hugged everyone else. I wanted Michel to blink twice if the tension was real.
Yes, I kept washing Michel's hand behind his back to see if he was signaling, "I'm in trouble, please help me." I I'm sure we'll eventually hear what happens between them. Maybe Michel will leak details with his normal quiet dignity. Mm-hmm. But something happened.
Agree.
This did not look, feel, or taste like a shared celebration win between two designers. So our round of applause for this episode goes to Kamohai's dad for blessing the home.
Aww.
That moment got us right in the fields. So
It
special and such a great idea.
Yeah, it did. And for our special post this week, we want to know, which house would you actually want to live in? Not the fanciest, not the most HGTV, but the one you'd move into tomorrow.
We've got pics on our Facebook and Instagram, so go cast your dream home vote in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.
As always, we have some apologies to make. I'm sorry to the Kimpton Hotel, the companion fish I clearly wasn't emotionally ready for, and anyone who thinks dead grass counts as landscaping. If you're vibing with us and your brain is basically made of HGTV at this point, you need to catch up on all of our episodes at designingbitches.com. We're literally everywhere you listen to podcasts, so hit that follow, like, star, or whatever button your app throws at you. We're not picky, we're just needy. Well, until next time, besties, bye!
Bye. See you soon.